The Baltimore Orioles have hit rock bottom, and no one knows what's going on with this team. Will they turn things around, or is their season already lost? Welcome to Orioles Digest. I'm your host, Kam Brice, and we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to do a big episode, and we're just going to talk about the MLB Trade Deadline. We're going to talk about the Baltimore Orioles. We're going to talk about whether this team will officially be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. By the end of this video, you'll know what the Baltimore Orioles will do in the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline. So without further ado, let's get into our first topic of the day. Wow. Yeah, it's been disappointing for the Baltimore Orioles. Last week, when they were winning 4 or 5 games and they won 2 out of the last 3 series, it felt like this team was starting to gain some momentum. They were 5.5 games out of the final wild card spot. And we saw some hope. We saw Gunnar Henderson. We saw Jackson Holliday really start to break out. Charlie Morton, Sagano, Dean Kramer. The pitchers were amazing for like a week. And that's what it lasted. A couple games. And then we came to the Yankees. So we had a good game against the Yankees. Then the rest of the games, we feel like we got dominated. Had a good games against the Rangers, and then we came back and was getting no hit by Jacob deGrom through 7 innings. So, actually, he got to the 8th, I believe. So, yeah, the Baltimore Orioles were literally no hit for the 3rd time in 5 games. Over the last 7 games, the Baltimore Orioles have less than 10 hits. That's insane. No runners on base, a bunch of strikeouts, a bunch of pop outs, a bunch of ground outs, nothing. And I don't know where you go without this team. I'm tying this into the trade deadline because if Mike Elias sees this, can this team turn the season around? Yes, it's not mathematically impossible. Mathematically, they have a chance. But for the Orioles, the way that we see them play, do we actually think that this team can make a run? We keep saying, oh, this team's going to make a run. We have to hope for that they make a run. But in order for them to make a run, they have to beat good teams. The Baltimore's are terrible against teams under 500. They're about 13 games versus team under 500, and they're still not better versus teams below 500. Negative both ways. So where do you want to go through? The offenses ranks OBP well in the 28th range, hits 28th on OPS 30th rank, stolen bases 30th. Like the Baltimores are not doing everything that we said the Orioles were going to do this year. Still bases, hit line drives, hit a slow down on the homers, in which they did, is which resulted in strikeouts. I missed the old home run team. I guess that's what happened when you get a guy like Anthony Santander who's out. And he's batting under 200 right now. So, but Tyler O'Neill hasn't played, so I feel like the Orioles didn't win this offseason at all. When you look at this offseason, what do you think? Did the Orioles win in the pitching staff? No. Well, that's a failure because your main aspect coming into this offseason, into the season, was finding an ace level pitcher or a couple of pitchers that could help all-star potential level that could help your rotation. You didn't do that. Thought you upgraded the bullpen. Andrew Kittredge wasn't a bullpen upgrade. He's not bad, but you need multiple guys because this whole bullpen has to get revamped. We thought this bullpen was going to be a strong suit of this team. It wasn't. So, starting pitcher, we have the bullpen. We have the bad play of Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson that we didn't expect. Manager changes, people in the clubhouse, development of young players. You have Jackson Holliday breakout. So out of those 5 things that's going on with the Baltimore this year, only one do we care about is Jackson Holliday breakout. So I think the Orioles can go in this situation. I think they can make a run, but it all depends on what they do over these next couple games. Because like I said, every video, and I'm going to keep saying this, if they are 8, 7 games, 9, 10 games behind final wildcard spot at the trade deadline, sell everybody. But if you're 5, 4, 3.5 games back, you buy. You try to at least get this team back in the playoffs. If it's not, get a good draft pick because you're not going to get Ethan Holiday. You're not going to be the worst team in baseball. So, but let's talk more about the MLB trade deadline. For the trade deadline, I want to talk about one guy who has been very good, but I'm not sure how to think about him. And that's Tony Mazzolino. Is he a good manager, or is he just managing a good team? I don't think this team is good. Like Jacob Meyer mentioned, Baltimore Sun reporter for the Baltimore Orioles. They've been no hit out of the last 7 games 5 times. So what is going on? Into the seventh inning, my fault. Not no hit fully, but no hit through seventh or through eighth, whatever you want to call it. So what changes? We thought firing Brandon Hyde would make this team better. It's a fans thought. I didn't think that. As a reporter, as a journalist, doing reports and writing articles on the Orioles and everything, I knew that firing Brandon Hyde was not going to make this team better, but it was going to allow young players to have more time to develop in the shaky lineups. Like, remember, there was against Tariq Skubal, um, Tony Manzolino. I always have problem pronouncing his name, Tony Manzolino. Said, yeah, I took Jackson Holliday out the lineup, and that was the worst decision he's ever did as managing the Orioles, intern managing the Orioles. He said that kid can play. He needs to play against left-handers and right-handers every single day. And Brandon and I talked about it last year in the beginning of this year. Well, we have other guys that play better against left-handers than Jackson. He's young. He's still developing. We want to push him. But I feel like Brandon Hyde was babying him, and Jackson Holliday just means like go out there and play. Now you look at the Holidays. He's batting about 760 from both sides of the plate. I mean, 700 OPS is not good. It's not eye popping, but for a guy that was batting the OPS, well, for 300 OBP of 266 and average well under 150 last year, then that's a big upgrade. So Jackson Holliday is doing what he needs to do. Tony Manzolino is doing what needs to do. He's instilling some confidence in Kobe Mayo. I love to see that we have Kobe Mayo going. Kobe Mayo, if we can get him more consistent, and get Jackson Holliday a little bit more consistent, a little bit, bring that little power here, there, cut down the strikeout rate, because that's the only thing Jackson Holliday wants to focus on right now. He cuts down that K rate, he'll be perfect. But other than that, the Baltimore is in a good situation. It just depends how this team's going to play over the next couple of weeks, and that gets us into our next topic. MLB trade deadline. This is probably the funnest time of the year. NFL trade deadline, NBA. I always say the MLB is the best because there's so many different types of moves that are made. And there's always one move every MLB trade deadline that everyone's like, oh, he's washed, or that's just a throwaway. And it ends up being a Ryan O'Hearn or a Jack Flaherty type of guy. And then you think, speaking of Ryan O'Hearn, should the Orioles sell him? Probably not going to re-sign him. If he has a All-Star year, you're probably going to want at least a contract, at least a big enough everyday player contract. And do you want to sign him when you have Chloe Mayo that you can officially move to first base? Because I don't think he's a third baseman. I want him at first. You have other guys like Heston Kjerstad you could sell to Myers. Jorge Mateo, you probably can move him for some prospect because he's a valuable utility player. You have Dylan Beavers you probably can move or call up. Cedric Mullins has been linked to the Phillies. Ryan O'Hearn has been linked to the Astros, trying to think, the Padres, and he's also been linked to the Yankees and Mets. So those are two guys that I probably think that's going to go. I think it's going to be Ryan O'Hearn. I think the Orioles are going to stick this year with Cedric Mullins because it's the last year at the Orioles. So kind of got his farewell tour. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. And other guys, like I expect to see other guys up like Salo. I expect to see him up this year. So the MLB trade deadline is going to be very fun. It's just thinking about how the Baltimore is going to handle everything. I think, like I always say in every video, if the Baltimore Orioles are 9, 8, 7, 10 games above five, under 500 by the All Star break, then you sell. But if you're less than 5 games by All Star break, or even five, even, then you buy and you try to go and try to make a playoff push. If not, you sell, you get for the future. But that's all we have for today on Orioles Digest. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm your host, Kam Brice. Make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe. We're giving you daily updates about the Baltimore every single day that you don't want to miss. From Orioles Digest, I'm your host, Kam Brice.